Marcus Rashford, who might be an option if Kane isn't fit enough down the middle, Rob, and some interesting quotes. And he's not been shy on implying things about Manchester United, you would say, since he's headed off to Barcelona on loan.
Yeah, he's been quite outspoken, hasn't he? Look, Marcus Rashford has done an interview with ITV ahead of tomorrow night's game, I should say, with Gabriel Clark, and he's talked about the inconsistent environment at Manchester United that didn't suit him, which he didn't feel brought out the best in him. And look, you can understand a little bit of what he's saying. There's been an awful lot of inconsistency and a lot of change at Manchester United, not only in the managerial position, but in terms of the personnel and the way that United want to play. So, look, we know it's been a difficult time for Marcus Rashford at United. I don't think there's any surprise in that, and he's not gone out and criticised Ruben Amorim or criticised the club. I think it was a fairly, objective view of what's been a difficult time for him. The interesting thing for me is that he's still got, after this season-long loan at Barcelona, 2 more years left on his Manchester United contract. We know that Barcelona have an option to buy him, and we wait to hear whether they will exercise that option. From what we've been told, they're not going to consider that until much later on in the season and see what their resources are and how Rashford's done later on in the season. But he's certainly made an explosive and impressive start, hasn't he, especially in the Champions League. And Clinton, again, another huge talking point is Marcus Rashford in the England setup and in the Manchester United setup. With those 2 years plus the rest of this season left on his Old Trafford contract, can you ever imagine a scenario where he'd go back and thrive at Old Trafford? Certainly that's something that the club seem to think is still a possibility.
Yeah, I think the club might think that, but I don't think Marcus Rashford thinks that. I think maybe his time's over now at Man United, because if that was an opportunity for that, you would have took him back this season, because he had a good spell at Aston Villa last season, and I thought this was the prime time. You can see at the moment he's gone to Barcelona. He's took his game to another level. We were seeing Marcus Rashford playing with a smile on his face. He looks sharp. He's scoring spectacular goals. He's assisting. So I think that ship sailed for him to go back to Man United. Listen, as you just said, he's still got 2 more years, so it's up to Man United what happens with him. But I think for both parties, it'll probably be at the end of this season, Marcus Rashford moves on, because he's doing ever so well at the moment. I think he's a top talent. He's letting his feet do the talking now. And he looks like he's concentrating at the moment. So long may it continue.
Kobe Mino, and not just this club, is that he's clearly a talented player on the ball, right?
He played the final of the Euros.
We've seen this.
Yeah.
We've seen it as a teenager. He's 20 years old now. He's still a young man. Isn't this a case of taking that talent and working with him and trying to help him about the defensive aspects of his game? I'm sure Casemiro, I'm not comparing the two, right? And I'm not comparing any defensive midfielder. But anybody at 20, generally in that position, is a bit wet behind the ears, letting a runner go here or there, or being out of position. Surely you work with that. Surely you go in and you go, man, this guy can play. Because you play Agarty, you roll the ball into him, he can't pass it. He might be able to track a runner, but he can't pass it. So why, it seems to me that Ruben Amorim has gone in, and anybody he just doesn't like, or doesn't fancy, he doesn't seem to want to work with them to make them better. He just chucks the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
It seems interesting, your choice of words, work with them.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the work rate on that side isn't there. Which is what any coach who has a player who he thinks isn't given the role will quickly, when it comes to having to play either one guy or another, that guy's getting shoved away. And the fact that you're talking about him playing for England in the Euros, probably because he got covered up, because he didn't have to do as much defending because he was playing in a team that actually just suited what he was good at, and he got that part of his game was covered up by others. But at United, nobody's covering anything up for anybody else at United. And so, if you're the coach of United and you're watching Manu, time after time, letting people run off them, and not looking as though it's hurting you to let people run off you, looking as though you're not that bothered about it, you're going to the bottom of the pile.
So are we having a different conversation we are about Manu than the others that we mentioned, the Antonys, the Rashfords, the McTominays, the Højlunds?
I don't think we should lump them all together, to be honest. I think they're a problem. They all individually had a problem.
No, but what I'm saying, they've excelled to a point since they'd left, yes?
Well,
what you're talking about Manu is his problems more than just Manchester United?
Right now, while he's at Man United, right, and whilst the manager is still there right now, then he's got no chance.
No, I know that. But if he leaves Manchester United, will we see a different...
But has anybody said Kobe Mino's... I've not read publicly somebody at Man United saying Kobe Mino's attitude's a problem.
No, Stevie seems to...
But you seem to think...
I'm not saying his attitude's a problem. I'm telling you that if the coach... If I'm coaching
the man
a
who doesn't
team...
like being negative about
If I'm coaching a team and there's somebody in my team who I know on the ball is fantastic, but who doesn't seem to care as much about going the other way, you're going straight to the bottom of the pile. I'm going to put somebody who's not maybe as talented, but who I know is going to work hard. I mean, it's kind
So
of
you're saying
that
regardless of where he
straightforward.
is, he doesn't have it?
I would suggest that unless he can go somewhere, because right now he ain't playing at United. So if he goes somewhere and somebody, as Craig said, maybe spends more time with him and encourages him and isn't going to jump on him as quickly as Amorim has, then he might get better. I just don't see that part of his game ever being top class.
So the other players on that list, you know, the difference, forgetting Kobe Mino as a sort of youngster who's still potentially got a long way to go in his career. You know, I'm never a big fan of Anthony at Man United, particularly the price tag and how he performed. But his work rate wasn't a disaster, not to my knowledge. Scott McTominay could never fault his work rate, and now he's been brilliant at Napoli. Rasmus Højlund could never fault his work rate. Now he's been short-term been magnificent in Italy, at Napoli. Marcus Rashford is the sort of one that sticks out. Right, Marcus Rashford was not poor at Man United like the others for what rate? Well, it was for what rate? The others were not. Mm-hmm. His was attitude. Right, I don't know about Kobe Mino, but I can tell you about Marcus Rashford. He was pretty much disgraceful for quite some time. Now, you could argue till the cows come home whether Amorim and United handled it the right way. I don't know. Nobody was right. Both could have been sort of wrong. But it was staring you in the face, watching him, talking about letting people run off him, talking about no desire to do any defending. That was him. And the others just didn't perform, and they got a move, and it's kind of working out for them, but they tried at Man United. They put their shift in, and it just wasn't happening. Rashford, that wasn't the case with him. His was just up here in the brain. And so that's why he is a lucky boy to get the move that he has at this moment, and potentially taking it to another level.
What's